After taking Japan by storm when it was released in theaters in 2001, Spirited Away, or Sentu Chihiro no Kamikakushi, was finally making its way to DVD in Japan during the summer of 2002. It hit store shelves on July 19th, and just like its theatrical release, it was a major success. Millions of tapes and DVDs were being shipped to stores, and it sold 1.4 million DVDs during the first week of its release. But something wasn't right. Within the first few days of its release, Studio Ghibli had received over 200 phone calls and emails about the DVDs, and it seemed like most of the customers were complaining about the same thing: a strange red tint that was applied to the video. When customers exchanged these seemingly defective DVDs for new ones, the issue didn't go away, and some retailers had already started offering free exchanges, treating the DVDs as if they were defective. The most striking example of the issue came packaged with the DVDs. As a part of this set, there was a bonus disc that contained theatrical trailers, and those trailers looked a lot more like what viewers remembered, with no red tint. In the report on the issue, Zack reached out to Studio Ghibli for comment. According to the studio, most of the complaints were about the DVDs, but there were some about VHS tapes as well. They were looking into the issue, but they weren't sure what was causing the problem. Quote, "The color designer and cinematographer added color effects to the film to make it look as identical as possible to the color seen in the theater, so it is not an abnormality," end quote. They treated My Neighbor Totoro and Princess Mononoke the same way, but didn't hear any negative feedback from fans. They notified Buena Vista Home Entertainment, or Buena Vista, Disney's home video division that owned the film's distribution rights, and asked them to investigate. On July 22nd, Buena Vista explained the situation to Benichi. "For the bonus disc, we used the footage from the trailers that we had on hand as they were, but for the feature film, it was adjusted after being examined by the producer, Studio Ghibli. It is not defective." When they spoke to Studio Ghibli, they recommended that you set your television to a movie or theater mode if you wanted to adjust the color of the picture, but they also stated that there are no plans to change the color tones and resell the film. Buena Vista repeated the same language in an official statement on the issue they released the next day. At the same time, they started reaching out to retailers. In a sales manual obtained by Zack, they stated that Studio Ghibli cannot guarantee the picture or sound quality when played on a personal computer, and recommended that customers watch it using a DVD player. When Zack reached out to Studio Ghibli about this, they decided not to comment. The red tint issue, which some fans started calling Terminator Vision, elicited a variety of reactions from fans. Obviously, there were a lot of people who were upset with the change, but there were a fair number of people who either thought it wasn't that big of a deal, since you could adjust the settings of your monitor, as well as those who welcomed the change, seeing it as a deliberate creative decision by Studio Ghibli. Despite continuing to receive complaints and negative reviews from customers online, Spirited Away DVDs continued to sell well. But these complaints did spark discussion on an issue that people didn't really think about. How do Japan's consumer rights laws apply to software? According to an article by Benichi on the topic, as the laws were currently written, they didn't. Despite the initial reaction by retailers, they may not have been legally obligated to accept the returns of DVDs because of the red tint. According to a representative from the Japan Consumers Association, in order to request a return based on the product liability law, there needs to be visible damage, and for it to fall under the consumer contract law, quote, "A monetary contract for the purchase of DVD software is invalid if there is intent, negligence, or tort on the part of the manufacturer or seller, but there must be proof of responsibility for the color tone, which is a matter of taste." Studio Ghibli has not changed its claim that the color tones in question are colors decided by Ghibli, making it difficult for a third party to make a judgment. Complaints continued to pile up throughout the summer, but the first sign that things may be starting to change happened at the end of September. Japan's National Consumer Affairs Center issued a warning to Buena Vista. They decided to test the DVDs themselves and, quote, "no extreme color anomalies were found," end quote. However, because of how quickly the complaints rolled in, they decided to ask the distributor two questions. What was their opinion on the reddish tint and how the product differed from the theatrical version? And how are they going to address the issue? Buena Vista responded by saying that any issues were probably caused when the film was converted to its digital format, and planned to address the issue by setting up a call center to receive customer complaints and printing the number on all packaging released after October. With that being said, they were going to continue to sell the product as it was, and didn't have any plans to change it. Things appeared to die down until November 28th, when 3 people filed a lawsuit in the Kyoto District Court. It was a civil suit filed against Walt Disney Japan, and it claimed that, quote, "the color tone is reddish and completely different from the movie theater," end quote, and was not only trying to obtain color-corrected DVD replacements, but 10,000 yen in compensation for each plaintiff. One of the plaintiffs was Tetsuo Otani, a lawyer who was also serving as the prosecuting attorney, who purchased the DVD in August. He was disappointed by the reddish tint and contacted Buena Vista, but didn't get anywhere. In order to see if he actually had a case, he decided to analyze the colors of the film using a histogram. According to their analysis, The trailer on the bonus disc had an even color distribution between values 0 and 255 for red, blue, and green. And while the red values remained consistent in the actual movie, the values for green and blue were compressed to values between 0 and 180. This led the plaintiffs to the conclusion that, quote, the compression occurred equally throughout the entire film and was not intentional, but rather due to some accident or mistake in the production process, end quote. In an interview with Mainichi, Tetsuo Otani explained why they decided to seek 10,000 yen in compensation. Since we were not injured, we decided not to seek a higher amount. This is not a trial for money, but rather a trial to question the defendant's attitude and response as a company. When I first sent the email, if Buena Vista had said, it was our mistake, we apologize, it would not have become an issue and there would not have been a lawsuit. We believe, based on subsequent news reports and other information, that there was a problem with the company's response. As for why they decided to sue Disney instead of Studio Ghibli, since we, the customers, do not know the relationship between Buena Vista and Studio Ghibli, we took the case against the distributor. However, in the course of the trial, Buena Vista may claim that they sold what Studio Ghibli told them to sell. We would like to talk to director Hayao Miyazaki in court to find out what he thinks about this as the producer. In Buena Vista's initial comment on the lawsuit, they said that they would discuss it with Studio Ghibli before releasing a response. But they did note that they saw the argument that the DVD looks different from what people saw in theaters as a difference in the way it was perceived. The trial didn't pick up steam until the following February, when Disney tried to get the case transferred to the Tokyo District Court, but this motion was contested by the plaintiffs. On May 26th, the court denied the motion to transfer, and Disney would have to respond to the complaint by July 24th. On the 24th, Disney filed a response and stated that the defendant, Disney, merely duplicates and presses the DVD masters produced by Studio Ghibli, the producer. We are not involved in the selection of colors and tones, and we assume no responsibility whatsoever. The color tones were adjusted in consideration of the color temperature of Japanese television sets, and the pertinence of the color tones cannot be discussed in a court of law and should not be the subject of legal evaluation. In order to demonstrate that the DVDs weren't defective, the defense cited Studio Ghibli's reasoning behind the color changes. The color tone of the feature film is the color tone that has been adjusted and determined for the viewing of the film on DVD. The trailer is simply a bonus video. They decided to adjust the tone of the film because the temperature of Japanese televisions is wider than movie theater screens. The master files were made on a monitor that was calibrated to match theater screens, and the footage was adjusted so that it would look the same on Japanese televisions. Studio Ghibli also noted that, since the main character is a 10-year-old girl who has entered the mysterious town, where humans are not allowed to enter, the overall color tone should not be clear and distinct to match the emotional tone of the main character. For this reason, we adjusted the image to warm and soft tones. But the plaintiff disagreed with this argument. Tetsuo Otani responded by saying that Disney says that they are not responsible for the product because they only press and sell the masters, but it is natural that Disney is responsible for the product to the customers who purchased it. The DVDs released in the US do not have a strong red tint, and we would like an explanation for this difference. One of the reasons given for adjusting the color tone is the emotional state of the main character, but the conditions in this regard are the same in both theaters and DVDs, so the explanation is confusing. The two sides traded reports and statements for the rest of the year and well into 2004. Then, on May 14th, the court asked both sides if a settlement was possible, and on August 20th, the court formally recommended that the two parties settle and decided to draft settlement terms. Then, on September 10, 2004, the two parties agreed to settle. Here were the terms of the agreement. 1. Defendant acknowledges and regrets any misunderstanding or confusion that may have arisen among some purchasers regarding the tint of the DVDs in question. 2. In the future, when selling DVD versions of films distributed in Japan, if the producer made any adjustments to the master data in order to create the DVD version, the defendant will clearly state this fact and make other efforts to inform consumers that the images on the DVD version have been adjusted from the master data so as not to cause any confusion. 3. Plaintiffs waived their claims in this case. 4. Plaintiffs and defendants mutually agree that they have no claims or obligations other than those set forth in this settlement agreement. And 5. The cost of the lawsuit shall be borne by each party. So, at the end of this long, winding affair, the red tint still remains.